Hey guys, welcome to another episode of World End Economica, and things are starting to fall apart around us. I told Hagano that I was going to leave mid-morning on a trading day. She was more confused than shocked. What would you do about trading? She asked about the obvious question. I'd already decided on my reply. Couldn't I just rest a day? Hagana's eyes flew open with shock at my words, but Hagana couldn't do trades by herself, and we couldn't rely on an automatic program. Why didn't you get some rest too? Weren't you staying up late recently? Okay. Hagana nodded and didn't say anything else. The night before I was meant to meet Barton. I couldn't really sleep much. In the back of my mind was meeting with Barton with glimpses of the gorgeous night scenes of Newton City. I took the same route to a Grand Central Hotel as I did 2 weeks before. I was led to the back of a cafe again. And just like last time, I made him pause in his smiles. You look terrible. But those words were different this time. Barton ordered me a hot chocolate liqueur. When I drank it, I felt like I was about to cry uncontrollably. Barton sat his massive self down across the coffee table, with his elbow on my armrest and his finger at his temple. Of course he was observing me, but I was obviously looking transparent to him. While I felt a little embarrassed, I somehow also felt a bit at home. Some people condemn people living a wasteful and extravagant life, and people say they're living hard and successful. Suddenly Barton spoke. Those condemnations are the words of losers, who has never succeeded before. It's likely I don't understand why the world is like that. No matter how hungry you are, if someone were to ram food down your throat, it would be painful for you. He said those words whilst looking at a coffee cup he had just sipped from. I saw your performance in the investment contest. How good or how bad the numbers come out sometimes depend on luck. Getting stuck isn't bad per se, but... He burped and continued. Sorry, well, it's gotten boring. I almost dropped my cup. What happened in the beginning felt like almost another person. Of course, your investment methods and selection of stocks are consistent right now, but from a more fundamental point of view, well, just looks like repetitive labour. Barton set down his cup and leaned forward, looking at me. His eyes felt like they would pierce through the truth, and be able to say the unpredictable future clearly. Say, mister, you haven't involved someone else in your investing, have you? My hand trembled, spilling with chocolate liqueur. However, I didn't move at all from that position. I just couldn't bring myself to say that it wasn't intentionally trying to hide it. However, if 2 people were involved in investments, then the performance would have resulted from 2 people. Despite that, here was just me by myself. Furthermore, floating amongst this boiling sea of profits, how could I say I was responsible for? With all my frantic efforts to prevent being replaced by a program, had I all simply eroded my current standing? I stared down at my cup, not being able to look up. Barton continued. Did you think I was going to ask you over to bring this other person? What he said was exactly what I was worried about. It would have been quaint in any case, right? I looked up instantly. His expression is a mature and dignified face, like he'd eaten something bad. Looks like I was right. Teaming up with a math geek, Quant would do that. But that Quant was responsible for most of the profits now. Barton held out his palm to prevent me from saying anything further. Quants are terrific creatures. We consider that being brilliant, they certainly are. A model of a market using math. In most cases, they could turn a human's trading methods into formulas. Barton flat out said exactly what was happening to me. Are you perhaps a sly type of investor who would nibble at a stock here and there, making careful profits while trying to find the next big wave to ride? Yeah. And that's something beautiful. Quick rises and falls of the stock market are, after all, most likely caused by humans. It's a lump of irrationality that cannot be expressed by formulas. It's something that can only be felt by humans. He was talking about the mood, something I couldn't get Hagana to understand, despite all my attempts at explaining. In this era, human labour is gradually getting replaced by work done by machines. The fight is here. You can't run away from it. He poked his temple lightly. To win, there are only 2 ways. Either you become someone who make the machines, or you continue doing things machines can't do. Things machines can't do? That's right, I'd called you out because I thought you had a talent to do something like that from just looking at your opening moves. People's thoughts are not something that can be turned into formulas. Being able to see through ambiguous data and outward appearances is a talent. Barton was leaning over at me, staring at me while talking. For example, that Quant you're working with. What do you think? Does that Quant possess the talent to be able to see through people's inner thoughts? At those words, I instantly had Hagana in my head. If there's one thing Hagana was bad at, it was seeing through people's thoughts and considering their feelings. There are many Quants like that, unable to do so. Even shown this to a degree in neurology. It's not easy to develop a brain in all these different directions after all. More specifically, being able to handle all these numbers is a very specialised skill. These math maniacs work at being quants to make money, mostly people who use their brains to math too much and have a lot of issues trying to deal with other people. This includes people who simply don't want to deal with other people, because it'd be a bother. Isn't that some kind of flaw? Just think of a math professor wearing a white lab coat and glasses. They're definitely strange people. I was very familiar with what Barton was saying. The guy's thoughts were usually very straightforward, just like maths. If A equals B and B equals C, then A would have to be equal to C. Till the end of time, no buts about it. And thus, thinking of things like selling yourself to solve a debt issue, Hagana's methods were always pretty extreme. These were the effects of having been steeped too long in maths, and the reward for that price was talent in maths. And this maths thing Quant uses a universal tool. Everyone's using the same tools to compete, so even if you came up with the best way, eventually someone would be able to mimic you. It's a fiercely competitive world out there, and being that, there's no guarantee of a reward. Permanently maintaining first is something that is impossible from the get-go. Everyone's experimenting, by trial and error, hoping to do well, thus they all eventually come across the same methods. With everyone doing the same thing, obviously you couldn't make money. A year and a half perhaps, or just a few months later, you'll suddenly stop doing well as you had before. Even in your situation, when you're eventually trying to carefully pick stocks, haven't you hit a wall before? Catching a mood of a market isn't doing short-term trades outside of those highly volatile situations. It's the same as what a quant is doing after all. I couldn't count how many times I'd gasped. It was like being able to see everything in a new light from the sidelines. Before I teamed up with Hagana, my trade suddenly stopped working as well. Even though I'd just been doing the same thing, I couldn't obtain the same level of performance. That's probably because someone else managed to figure out the same tactics I've been using. I guess that's what's happened. It was careless to consider working with a quant. Anyone trading on intuition and reflexes would start wanting to seal the approval of science. However, relying on science did not solve any problems. In the end, all you're doing is just the same thing. Therefore, if you want to be a human who can surpass the machines, you have to think about problems as a human. Trying to make money in the irrational atmosphere with stocks is either rising or falling rapidly one way. Quants assume people are rational and model the market that way. And therefore it's useless in situations where people are being irrational. Furthermore, humans usually are irrational. Isn't it like that? Romance pretty much like that. Barton was smiling with satisfaction, but could only give an unsure nod. Well, wasn't thinking it was okay to give Lisa 50,000 more in exchange for sleeping on and laps, the epitome of irrationality. Though, it is true that everyone has times where they start wanting to turn to science, so I'm not laughing at you. For economists, and both past and present, once they open their mouths, nothing but formulas come out. Most likely it's because they feel they wouldn't be accepted as real science without throwing formulas in. However, even doing that doesn't free them from their fears. But simply, they're simply avoiding with things they can't compute. Nietzsche once said the secret to science was a true fear of things that cannot be computed. In order to overcome machines, humans must get close to things that cannot be computed. And the only people who can do that, he flicked his suspenders and said in a teasing tone, are those who can look up through what the other person is thinking. In front of Barton, all I could do was listen. It took all my effort to try to understand him, and it would be strange to say I really understand him at all. However, I knew what I was saying was something very important. I dreamed many times when my body was turning into Greek letters. At this rate, I'd stop being necessary. Therefore, I had to do something that Hagana wouldn't be able to. I swallowed my saliva and asked Barton in a trembling voice, would I be able to do that? In front of me, Barton first frowned at me. Isn't it a question of whether you could do it or not? To survive, your only choice is to do it well. I felt like I'd heard his face somewhere before. What's a terribly powerful phrase, I thought to myself. I nodded slowly. Furthermore, I don't just idle around. I call out to people who have a chance of doing it. On that point, your sense of smell already has been demonstrated. One of the reasons I called out to you to come here during the morning of trading was that. He finished the remaining coffee in his cup, set it down on the table, and grabbed his jacket from the sofa. I want to show you an outline of how I trade. Since he had a large frame, I felt like the atmosphere around him wouldn't move even if he got up. He stood up imposingly and looked over at me. Let's go! These were powerful words, like a hero leading the lost. Barton drove himself this time. The car didn't feel any less expensive, but it wasn't something you'd recognise instantly as a high-class luxury car. I was a bit lost because the car looked like it would get lost instantly among the other cars on the street. Come ride shotgun. Following Barton's directions, I sat myself down up front. It's always a hard decision about what car to use for work. In the cramped driver's seat, the full-figured Barton drove a strong and solid turns on the steering wheel. How are we viewing it from this point of view? That's the steering wheel down there. It has to be not too fancy and not too junky. Why? The only way to surpass the machines is to look into people's inner thoughts. Barton replied with a teasing tone. In other words, figure it out for yourself. A car for work? Turning this phrase in my head, the answer suddenly occurred to me. It's not too shoddy looking, but I'd think you didn't make it very much money. Barton was the head of an investment fund. Customers would trusted money to a fund, and the fund would use that money to take a slice of a profit. If people weren't the type to entrust money to us while we were desperately trying to repay their loan, they'd probably prefer entrusting their money to a fund manager in a luxury car, instead of someone in a broken-down car. That's correct. And why shouldn't it be too luxurious? Barton replied without taking his eyes off the road. I frantically tried to come up with an answer. However, a clear reason wasn't coming to mind. It would perhaps make people hate you. Hate? Me? Well, I suppose there is that. The car made a right at an intersection. Newton City was multi-layered, and most places had roads separate from pedestrian paths. Newton City, as seen from car lanes, looked different from a pedestrian's point of view. Actually, it's kind of like a line of defence. Defence? Yeah, as long as there's times where a fund makes money, but at times where it loses money. It's even more true when a fund has been longer a fund has been around. Therefore, if you normally go around in a luxury car, it becomes much harder to justify during times of loss. Therefore, a car for work had to be not too high class and not too cheap. And for the luxury car, focused practicality is best to relax in. I understood his point. Well, such a thing comes easily if you do it yourself. Besides, there's something else we should be looking at. The car descended into the lower level, exited the highway, and came out into a corner in the administrative sector. This area is not only housed the Luna University campus, but also home to drug companies, biotech companies, and many other companies making huge revenues in intellectual property. Among the companies around here, which one's financial reports have you looked at? He asked me while the car sped through the tree-lined classy streets, after coming back into the upper layers. Barton had both his hands on the steering wheel and looked around at the buildings outside, as he was trying to find someone he was scheduled to meet. I searched through my memories at once. The companies around me here were obviously the main stocks on the market. Rupert from Pharmacy, Hut, Totska Holdings, Ringtech, Biotechnology, and... You're great being able to come up with just instantly. Furthermore, all of them have great finances. I could recommend them to even old widows. I see. However, looking at the finance reports and graphs of stock prices will only net you conclusions that even a program could make. Even signs of embellishment and accounting fraud could be picked up mechanically if you had the know-how. It's because they could all be representative of well-known logic and numbers. Did you know that you can use statistics to find invalid records and ledgers? Huh? You just have to look at the statistical distribution of your digits and the first digits in all the numbers. From that, you can determine whether or not there's something fishy. Standard deviation. I had no idea what I was talking about. But I did, with standard deviation. From my vague knowledge, the digits on the ledger were random, as if you roll the dice. In other words, numbers 1 through 9 should appear with equal probability. Accounting firms use it to expose inappropriate management. Statistically speaking, in normal situations, the first digit tends to be 1, about 30% of the time. They call it Benford's Law. I thought that couldn't be right, but no words came out of my mouth. Math is a bit difficult, but if you look at logarithmic graphs, you'll be able to see it. This type of stuff is child's play for quants. Barton sat himself up and stepped a gas bit, entered a narrow street. Then he stopped over above a shoulder and nodded over at a building nearby. This is a building where Ring Tech is housed. Ooh, snazzy. So we'll come and restore later, shall we? As ever, thank you very much for watching. My name has been Fuds. Join me again for more of a tour. Bye bye.